Welcome back to the Zach Djellab channel, ladies and gentlemen. It is, of course, a Friday, and we are going to be talking about transfers, even though it's not the transfer window, you can see by the title. Joining me today, Henry Hill and Patrick Van Straten. Fellas, how are you doing, Henners?
Good. I don't know why you haven't called this the Zach Jibber Jabber.
Yeah, there were a few comments.
Football Jibber Jabber. Football Jibber Jabber.
Nothing stood out to me just yet. Nothing stood out to me just yet.
Yes.
So again, please continue to
try that. Just see how it feels.
Welcome back to, what was it, Zach Djellab's Jibber Jabber. Welcome back to Zach Djellab's Jibber Jabber.
Zach Jibber Djellab.
Yeah.
Jibber Djellab.
Jibber Zach Djellab.
Doesn't quite flow off the tongue, lads. Doesn't quite flow off the tongue. We'll keep thinking. Again, keep getting your suggestions down below. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel for more. I've not heard of that in a long time. Patrick Van Straten, any ideas for the name, and how have you been?
I don't have any ideas for the name. But like, you know, I think all these names are always crap. Like when Sunday Vibes was the name, I remember when that was first put to me, I was like, I hate that name.
It was actually Holder. It was a Holder, wasn't it?
Huh?
It was a Holder. I thought we just called it Sunday Vibes.
No, I think Chris. I thought Chris was like pushing it quite hard. It was Chris's idea.
I swear.
And I was like, and I said to him at the time, I was like, this name sucks. I hate this name, and I still think it sucks. But like, that doesn't stop it catching on.
Yeah,
The most liked name was Zach's Zippity Zozo Dojo of Football Takes.
I hate that. No,
Not a fan of that one.
No, I don't think
that person's banned from watching the channel.
Football Jibber Jabber it is. It was not me.
Okay, leave comments again. Keep going, and you know what? Next week, instead of quick fire questions, we'll do putting them to the boys, and we'll vote on which ones. If we get all 3 votes of yes, we'll go with that.
Right, so that would never happen. It's like perfect. You never have to do anything.
Literally, we'll see. But as you guys can see by the title of this video, we're quite well into the Premier League season now. A good few games have passed, and I think it's time to look at the new signings that joined in the recent summer transfer window and see how they're getting on. We're basically going to say whether they have had a hit or they have had a miss so far.
You've had a miss. Did you ask Henry how it is? Did he ask you? Or just asked me?
I asked Henry how he was. I did.
I'm a hit today.
Maybe I just missed
I'm a
that.
hit back with you two. So I've had a hit.
He's had a hit.
Let's go.
Okay, exactly. And yeah, we'll go through every single transfer. Obviously, some haven't played and so we'll talk about that. But it could be a long video, boys. It could be a long video. Okay, without further ado, let's kick things off with Arsenal, who obviously had ended up being, I guess, a little bit of a busy window, especially on deadline day. But first off, we'll talk about the Italian, who's probably we've seen featured the most so far out of Arsenal's transfers in the summer. Riccardo Calafiori, brought in from Bologna and for around 45 million euros. I am going to do this through euros. I'm looking at Transfermarkt. Work it out for yourself. It's not too difficult. Calafiori, has he been a hit or has he been a miss? Has only just started his first game against Manchester City. Played, I guess, left back. What do you think so far, fellas?
Go on, Pat.
I mean, the problem with this is that like it's hard to separate it from like what I expect of him going forward because he hasn't really done much.
Yeah,
he scored a goal against Man City. That is great.
Good goal.
You know, he played away at Atalanta, where Arsenal kept a clean sheet. Arsenal's defense, you know, when you actually look at it, 11 versus 11, like Arsenal's defense has still been pretty excellent this season.
Yeah.
Even before. Okay, so obviously in the second half of the Man City game, like it was just kind of a weird training exercise. But actually, after the goal, Arsenal really grew into that game. I was impressed. Like when Arsenal went in 2-1 up at half time, they were a bit lucky, as in it was probably more like a 1-1 game. But Arsenal had really grown into the game, had really caused problems. Martinelli was getting behind Walker, causing problems from set pieces. And I do think Calafiori was definitely a part of that. He's looked good when he's played. However, like, has he justified like a £45 million price tag like so far? No, obviously not. However, I do think this is an upgrade in defensive personnel. Even last night, you know, you look at like Bolton in the League Cup, Arsenal were able to rest Gabriel and Saliba.
Did he start?
And play Kivior. Yeah, they played Kivior and Calafiori. And you think, well, that is kind of one of the reasons he's come in as well, like getting minutes out of the legs of those key players. So I guess it's a tentative. It's certainly not a miss, but hit feels a bit generous for a guy who's probably played 250 minutes.
His another problem for him is that Urian Timber has come back and has been starting at left back as well, which
has been quite bad. I think
quite
it
bad.
Wasn't good. Yeah, it wasn't.
I don't think he's been good.
Amazing.
Well,
not like how he was when he first started for in that one game, but he looked half decent.
Well,
he's
been stealing supposed minutes, I suppose, from Calafiori.
Definitely.
So, in that regard, but he went off injured against City. If he's been as bad as you claim, then hopefully Calafiori will get a run in the side to really show exactly what he can do. But it's that, I think it's the thing of, we moan about teams when they don't have enough depth sometimes, and then sometimes we go, we've got too many players in that position. I don't think it's a bad problem for Arsenal to be stacking their defence full of real quality. The one thing I'd say about this guy is he had one very good season in Serie A. The rest of his career was a bit bumbling before that.
Injury-prone career
Injury-prone at Roma. There's a reason you end up at Basel at some point. There's no disrespect to Basel, but my point is...
Mo Salah was there at one point.
My point is we shouldn't expect the world of a guy off the bat who's only had one really quality season rolling into a great international campaign where he looked good for Italy. But all things considered, it's not a bad thing that he's not being thrust into the starting lineup in an Arsenal side where the stakes are so high at the moment. But he's shown against City, as you said, came on, scored a goal. He's shown that he can play at that level. Against Atalanta, who were arguably better than Arsenal across the whole game as well, he was solid at the back too. So, I think for me it's a hit so far. I don't think it's an outrageous fee, and I think he's only going to get better and better.
Was it Savinho who's up against on that wing, which is no easy task as well. I thought he managed to do pretty well.
Savinho does get away from him to assist the first goal, but I think that's more on Gabriel and Saliba for letting Haaland get between them. But it was put to me the other day that like Calafiori, that goal he scored against City, if he's actually got quality from that area, from the corner of the box, then not from shooting but from crossing, he could actually be a very useful weapon for Arsenal. Because obviously he spent a lot of time last season getting up towards the penalty area for Thiago Motta's Bologna side. He was kind of going into midfield and then even joining like a four behind a striker. Well, if you've got him there and he can like consistently deliver high quality balls, with the size of Arsenal's players now, you could have Rice, Havertz and Marino all crashing the box and then Saka in behind them to pick up any loose balls. That's quite an interesting weapon that Arsenal actually haven't had, but it is a weapon that title-winning sides have had over the last few years. You think of De Bruyne and Trent Alexander-Arnold in particularly delivering
those great
a less conventional cross across from the corner of the box. That's
an early cross per se.
Yeah, like Arsenal haven't really had that, but you can see Odegaard sometimes, cuts back and does an in-swinger. To have an out-swinger as well, I think would be quite useful. So that might be an area where Arsenal get some traction from him too, not just offensively.
Yeah, I think you also got to remember as well, 22 years old. Like this is someone who is a signing for now, but also someone who's going to be there for a long, long time. Like you look at Arsenal's defenders, and it is quite frightening, to be fair, who they have in that back line. Another signing, Mikel Moreno, obviously joined for 32 million euros, about 30 million quid, injured on the first day. I think it's tough to say a hit or a miss with someone that's not played a game, but does that make it miss if they signed him and he's injured?
I think there's a lot of players we're going to cover. I don't think we can speculate too much on a player that is just injured. I think the price they got him for is pretty good. He's at the peak of his game. Let's wait and see what he'll do when he comes in. I think he's exactly what Arsenal players were crying out for, and they've got him. He's great going forward and backward. Let's not judge him right now. It's not his fault he's injured. They're doing okay without him right now. So just think about how good they're going to be when he does eventually come in. And actually, he'll have more time to grow accustomed to the club, be around the players. Again, I don't think you want the pressure of throwing these guys straight into high pressure
scenario.
Big scenarios. So it's obviously not ideal, but it's worse things have happened for Arsenal. And with Sterling as well, there's no pressure on him to be starting every game at the moment. He's got the score sheet, which I think is a huge boost for him. The thing with Sterling, you just have to remember they're paying 40% of his wages, and they've got him on a season, and they needed a bit more attacking depth. So it's just an unbelievable pickup whether he's playing or not, because he's just going to be such a weapon. He's a problem every time he comes off the bench. I've enjoyed watching him so far. You've got Wanyeri as well, who looked brilliant.
He's
more depth too.
He's probably the most highly rated youngster, to be fair.
I think Arsenal's business this summer was just really astute. Really, really astute. Not any crazy additions, just smart additions to bulk out the squad. And just having Sterling there for a year, a guy that knows exactly how to win titles, is brilliant. And I think he's going to grow into the campaign too.
Don't forget Neto as well. Big signing from Bournemouth. Obviously, he was cup-tied in the EFL Cup, so he couldn't play yesterday. When you look back on that window now, Pat, is there... Is there anywhere where you think, I wish we could have at least sorted that out? I wish I should have tried to get that player. Or where in the end, because obviously there wasn't an incredible amount of signings, but it does feel like everywhere does feel pretty strong.
Yeah, not really. I mean, like I might not have gone for Merino, but I do think Merino makes sense for that position. You know, like he's a left footer who like wants to get up towards the edge of the box. He allows Declan Rice to play as a 6 instead of like this stupid 8 role that all our fans seem to think that he should play. I think that would be really helpful for Martinelli. I just didn't really want to unsettle the team. I think the team as it is like pretty good. So maybe I wouldn't. Would I have liked us to get like, you know, a potential star for the future instead of Sterling? Sure. Would I have maybe picked a different midfielder over Merino? Maybe, but I also I'm not Mikel Arteta. Am I happy with those players though? Yeah, definitely. Like I think Arsenal needed a versatile forward and they got one. Arsenal needed a midfielder and they got one. Arsenal needed to upgrade the left back slot and they got one. I just don't really I don't really understand like where the issue is. I didn't really want us to go for a striker. I think we're fine as we are. So yeah, I mean, come the end of the season, who knows? But there's nothing there that I think Arsenal just like failed to address.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all okay. Enough. I mean, I guess you can look at Osimhen going to like Gala and you think, oh, okay, well,
could you, especially on loan, like,
well, maybe if he goes to Gala on loan, like maybe you could have loaned him. Like, then you start to think that. But
I wouldn't. A unique situation.
But I didn't want us to go and sign Osimhen on a permanent deal for the crazy money that was talked about. So
that was a really unique situation.
I'm totally fine with it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's move on to Aston Villa then, and talk about someone who I think probably does have to go in the hit category. Amadou Onana, obviously signed from Everton to Aston Villa for around, I think, 55 million quid, I think it was, about nearly 60 million euros, and has so far started pretty well for them. I mean, he's obviously been a bit of a goal threat for them, especially from set pieces, which they've looked to have improved on and added, especially like kind of replacing. He has essentially replaced Douglas Luiz, and when you look at when he's in the box compared to him, it's very, very different. What do you make of Onana's start then for Villa, Henry?
Looking at the most expensive transfers that happened this summer, I think he is the best. The most successful of the top level additions. Coop Miners as well, maybe going to Juventus, but we're just focusing on the Premier League here.
Almost been good up to the injury.
Very true. Solanke, Euro, Neto. These are only 3 players that, according to Transfer Marks, cost more money.
We'll get there.
Cost more money than Onana. He's been so seamless the way that he's fitted into a Villa side that are looking very good again. I watched them against young boys. I know it's not like a huge reflection, but they looked completely as if they belonged in a top European competition. They dominated young boys. Pat's right about Tielemans growing in stature, and it almost makes complete sense that they'd lose Luiz and Tielemans. He was always a good player. He just couldn't break into that side at that moment in time, and I just think having Onana alongside him really complements him well. Yeah, as you said, he's a threat in the box. He's scored goals. I was watching his interaction with the fans after the young boys game. They love him. Yeah. He just seems like a great addition to have, and it was always a weird one when he moved to Everton because he was linked with all these good sides, and then Everton just kind of obviously just went, "We'll give you that money," and then
they paid a lot for him, didn't they?
And then
40 million was that?
And then they were like, "Well, yeah, sure." He's now in a progressive, in a sort of ball dominating team.
Suits him, doesn't it?
Under an incredible man. Well, as in. He's not playing at Everton anymore. Yeah. He's in a team fighting for titles under an amazing manager. I think really, really positive for Onana. And I think someone like Emery is going to get the best out of him. So although I do think the fee is big, it says here 59 million euros. That is a big fee. It's a huge fee. He currently hasn't put a foot wrong.
Well, 3 goals, 2 in the league, 1 in the Champions League. Again, we have only seen him play against young boys. I think they've got Bayern Munich next. That will be an interesting test for him, that's for sure. I'm trying to think in the Arsenal game, if he played well. A little bit of me thinks that he maybe got overrun a little bit. I can't quite remember exactly.
He was okay. I don't think he was like a significant problem for them. I think Arsenal's game plan also kind of changed last minute that game, right? Because Jesus got injured. True. And I think their plan was probably to play Havertz deeper, which would have been maybe more of a problem physically for Onana. Well, then you'd have had him having to track Havertz. But like he certainly looks at home in that side. You know, from just like a personal development point of view, he's getting to do slightly less
Yeah.
because he's just got better teammates. So it's not like at Everton where it was like, please do everything in midfield because nobody else is competent.
Yes.
So his passing, you've seen a bit less kind of ambition in his passing this season.
It was never like considered amazing, his passing.
Yeah, but he's young enough that it had plenty of room to develop.
Okay.
Well, now you're alongside Tielemans, and it's like, well, obviously we want Tielemans to be on the ball, like instead of you. So from that point of view, maybe that side of his game might never develop to as high as it could have gone because he's not going to be asked to do it. He's playing much more like a defensive midfielder who is able to get forward sometimes. That's totally fine. But it's interesting that like that is now a different sort of player he'd turn into than when he was linked with say Arsenal or something. You thought, well, or United, if he'd gone there, he might have turned into a different kind of player. But certainly we liked the signing, and it's clearly good. And like the defense has been, not stellar, but like better than it was last season. Because last season, as much as people love Douglas Luiz, you have to accept the fact that the defense last season was appalling for a Champions League side. I think this is a clear improvement.
Yeah, definitely in the hit category. Henry, go on, my friend.
Just before comments, say anything. Elise has been amazing for Bayern Munich. He's been brilliant. I think he got 2 goals and 2 assists last week alone. And I think Endrick has been pretty fun at Real Madrid.
Endrick has been phenomenal.
The
wicked.
goal he scores in the Champions League is so funny because like in my head I'll be thinking as a coach, why are you shooting from there? Like what? Like you got Mbappe making the run on the left. Or I think was it Vinny on the right making the run, and he decides to have this shot. But
cannon, man.
He does get some crazy power behind it. I mean, he's definitely
he's been really fun. His whole look's pretty cool. He just looks unbelievably relaxed out there.
Yeah.
And now Mbappe's injured. I'm hoping they're going to just play Endrick through the middle for a few games. But yeah, sorry, I just thought I should say. And Tay's been crap. Polina hardly got a minute. Fine. So good luck rotting at the Allianz.
So just to touch on that Villa thing, I just looked it up. Villa last season were conceding like 1.6 XG a game, which is god awful. And I'd say you're lucky to make the Champions League with a defence that bad. And this season they're conceding 1 XG a game. So I don't know if that will necessarily last. Like the hard games they played have maybe come more at home, but like they look better. They just look better. They did exactly what they should have done this summer, which is upgrade the areas that we thought were weak. And now they're in the top 4 again, and they've got a chance to like really kick on, given the kind of mess around them.
Martinez as well, I feel, has been a little bit poor, actually. He's made a couple of mistakes already this year.
He's an idiot.
For someone who's considered the best goalkeeper in the world.
Oath.
Yeah, like he's definitely made a few errors.
Doogie said it right, not even top 10.
It's definitely not top 10. Definitely not top 10.
Who else have we got to talk about Villa?
Yeah,
Barkley,
Ian Matson.
Hardly played.
Yeah, 107 minutes, actually. But they did spend a lot of money on him.
Isn't he getting locked up by Luca Dean right now?
But essentially, yeah. They spent over 40 million euros for him. I think that might possibly be rising too as well. But it's a lot of money to spend on someone, and then I guess not played them. It kind of happened with Lucas Dean last time though. With who's the left back that's gone to Forest on loan? Moreno.
Yeah,
it kind of happened then. They brought him in with the idea of he'll be the one to replace Dean.
Well, I think it kind of touches on what Pat's talking about. Who's a better defensive fullback?
Yeah,
and it's probably Luca Dean.
And Dean does also offer you stuff going forward.
Yeah, he can. He's got a wicked left foot. So I think Emery's looked at this and gone, hold on a second. Matson is more of a flying wing back. And perhaps in certain games, it's just better to shore up the defence. That's why I think, Luca Dean's just been around for a very, very long time, played at a very high level. I'm not surprised to see him keeping Matson out, but I think Matson will grow into it. The problem, they did pay a lot of money for Matson, though.
They did.
I also think you just don't want to turn over the whole team at once. Onana had to come in for Luiz, right? But then you've got, like Rodgers playing more as well. Like you obviously had like Diaby went out. Like there's changeover that had to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think you necessarily want to put in like 5 new starters, and especially in defence, you kind of want your defenders to be bedded in before they're playing. Like Arsenal, the same with Calafiori, right? Like I think the plan was when you know the system, until you know the system, a guy who's less talented than you but knows what to do is better.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Then you'll get the play. So I totally believe that Matson will start seeing minutes.
Yeah.
But right now, like I think it's completely fair enough that they're saying no, we're gonna get some stability.
Mm-hmm.
and then you play your way into contention. I think that's like the best way to do it, especially in, say, central defensive midfield positions and in the back line.
Okay. Well, I mean, looking at the few
Chucking
of the others,
a forward in isn't that risky.
Cameron Archer, Philogene, Illing Jr., Luth Dobbin. These guys haven't really played.
Well, Illing Jr.'s out on loan.
Okay.
Scored a good goal the other day.
Philogene, no one cares about, but they really wanted him.
Cameron Archer, obviously, they brought in as well. I mean, the only other one who gets maybe featured.
But he went straight back out.
Ross Barkley.
No, he's just a good squad player.
Just a man who's there. It's fine.
Okay.
I like Ross Barkley, and I'm absolutely buzzing that he's playing.
It's hard to miss on something like that.
Yeah,
especially
he's
when
just
they're that
like
cheap as well.
£5 million experienced head.
Yeah, depth. Like, how do you miss?
Yeah, I mean, Dahoud from Henry's call last year is probably the best I've ever seen.
What?
When you said Dahoud on a free is a bad transfer.
He's crap.
And ended up being right. He went on loan by the January.
He hasn't been good since he was at Gladbach.
Yeah,
when he was about 22.
I think he's now.
They mocked me, Zach.
Hasn't he gone back to Germany now as well?
He's like Eintracht or something.
Yeah.
Crap.
So the last time he was good was under Lucien Favre.
Okay,
next to
then.
Granit Xhaka.
Let's talk about Bournemouth, because Evan Nilsson was their most expensive signing. 37 million euros.
His problem is he looked great in the first game. He was really busy in the first game. His problem is he just hasn't scored yet, and that is seeping
Missed
into
the
his
penalty
confidence.
as well.
The penalty was so bad. You saw him, that stupid stuttery run-up, which players do. It was telegraphed. It was awful. I think sometimes as a striker, you just need to get that first goal and get up and running, and he hasn't got it so far. And that's coincided with Bournemouth not actually getting the results that everyone, that their performances deserve. They got rolled over by Liverpool again. Like, they're good at creating chances, but they need a striker. And the problem is Solanke. This is showing how important Solanke was to that system. Putting away these moments and opportunities. They're still creating all the chances, but they now don't have someone confident enough to put the ball in the back of the net. And we're seeing like Tavernier having like bomb forward and take pot shots from distance. I'm not worried about Bournemouth because this is like last year when they were a bit rubbish at the start, but at least they look quite good and losing games and drawing games. They will pick up points eventually, but even Nilsson desperately needs that first goal. They had to spend the money on someone. I don't know. It's not like everyone went, oh yeah, Even Nilsson's the guy they should go get. I don't think that was a general consensus in terms of the big strikers in Europe worth spending 40 million euros on. It's still fun. The fact that Bournemouth can go and buy Porto's main striker is still pretty funky. However, he needs. Yes, really, Pat is right. In that instance, spend less money, pay the wages, and buy Nketiah because he will score you goals.
And Nketiah has been extremely good, I think, so far. But anyway, yeah, I completely agree. I think Henry's absolutely nailed it. Like, I don't think it necessarily means though that Evan Nilsson won't come good, because I think Bournemouth are pretty good. I think just to cover him quickly, I think Sinisterra hasn't played very much, but has been excellent when he's played. Played under two full 90s, but he's got 2 goal involvements and has looked.
Was there last season as well, wasn't he? On loan, I think.
But he's a permanent transfer.
Yeah,
this
now.
summer.
Yeah, definitely.
So Sinisterra, good. Evan Nilsson, not great so far. But that said, against Liverpool, you look at the scoreline at the end of the game, you're like, easy win for Liverpool. But when you watch the game, Bournemouth were pretty dangerous, especially in the first half. They were able to drive through the middle quite easily, get through the midfield, and get up against the back line. And they could easily, if he just holds his run, it's Semenya, right?
Yeah.
If he just holds his run, then they're 1-0 up really early on. And they ended up with 19 shots, the same as Liverpool in that game. Now, I'm not saying that they deserve to get something out of it. But I'm saying they showed in that game that they can be dangerous. In the Chelsea game, they were clearly the better side. Bournemouth have been pretty decent so far. And I think that they will create chances for their centre forward. Because Dominic Solanke is not a guy who picks it up outside the box, beats 2 guys and bangs it in the top corner. Dominic Solanke is a tap-in merchant. And I mean that in a really good way. Yeah. Getting in positions for tap-ins is literally the most valuable thing you can do in football. Yeah. So that means Bournemouth can create chances for somebody who can just get space in the box. And I do think Evan Nilsson will be able to do that. So it doesn't really concern me that much. I think a lot of these guys haven't played that much, probably again because there's a relatively complex pressing system for them to learn. But Dean Howson, he looks like what we thought he might be, which is a guy who Bournemouth flipped for 60 mil in 2 years. He's 19 years old. His passing looks phenomenal. Like he's just really good. He's just really good. And
I said it.
Getting him for relatively little money is such a steal from them. Bournemouth have quietly been a pretty intelligent recruitment club, I think, over the last few years, which is why I want to give them the benefit of the doubt on Evan Nilsson. But Howson in particular, I think, is like a cultured passing centre-back who's still a teenager, and now he hasn't got many minutes so far, but he's going to get minutes this season in the most competitive league in the world as a teenager. That is still very unusual. And
a great system as well,
man. I think he's a really exciting prospect.
Henry's
Henry's right.
Love child. Areo as well. So they brought him from Barcelona. He's been actually not too bad. He's played a decent few games for them. Areo, the right back for them. I think he's out of all the signings, probably played some of the most minutes. He's looked pretty good.
Huge hit.
Top 10.
No, he has. They also brought in Kepa Arrizabalaga on loan.
Yeah.
I thought against Liverpool.
He was poor when he came running out, and he was at fault.
He just
for one of the
freaks
goals.
out a bit. He just freaks out a bit when he's under that pressure.
I still think he's a good goalkeeper, and I think he's just hamstrung by a high price tag. I don't think he can be much worse than. Well,
he makes some good saves against Liverpool. It was just that
panicker,
first one. He just panics.
It's like the worst. It's one of the worst positions on the pitch to be like a panicker.
Yeah.
And but that said, like, he's all right, isn't he? It's like he's the keeper. Bournemouth don't care. It doesn't matter.
He's a good instinctive saver.
He's a great reactions keeper. Yeah. Like, he's a great reaction. And like
when he can't think.
But like,
when he doesn't have time to think, he's like.
Yeah, his error against Liverpool was just like that's. I think the issue is when you think of Kepa, these like, errors always keep coming up, and that's a bit of an issue to have when you're a keeper. But we'll see what happens with that. So, just roughly, Bournemouth.
So how many teams have we done? 15?
We've done
16?
3. So let's get a move on. Let's get a move on then. Brentford.
We're going to get bullied when we get to Southampton and do it about 1 minute again.
Yeah, well, I mean,
give us some names and we'll give you just quick hits.
Brentford, Igor Thiago has been injured, hasn't he?
Crap.
Well, miss.
So, too much money. Crap.
But it wasn't a miss from Moreno. So which one is it?
Miss.
Van der Berg has actually featured for Brentford at the back. We've also seen Fabio Carvalho slowly getting minutes for Brentford. Gustavo Nunes, we've not seen too much either. Van der Berg was someone that I remember Liverpool brought in a couple of years ago, and everyone thought this kid could be, the next Van Dijk to play alongside him. Didn't quite happen in the end.
Big Dutch guy.
Yeah, literally. Didn't quite happen in the end, but he is at a nice club at the moment. Brentford seem to be doing some pretty good things. Obviously, I know they lost to Spurs on the weekend.
They got thumped.
They did, yeah.
They got thumped.
But in terms of Van der Berg, who I think is really the only transfer we can talk about so far, 22-year-old Dutch centre-back playing in the league. You mentioned earlier, obviously, about Huijsen, who's 19, only 3 years older, and he has featured 195 minutes in 3 games, 2 in the League Cup as well.
I think he was on loan at Preston. I remember watching him against Fulham at one point years ago. He's a really good defender, and then he was on at Mainz last year on loan.
Is there a question
impressive in the Bundesliga? I think they got a lot of money for him. They did really well to sell him for the amount of money.
About 20 million.
Yeah, but he was also like Leverkusen were looking at him. I don't think Leverkusen look at you unless you are a very good prospect. So I think
Mainz as well are a smart club.
Yeah, so I think this will turn out to be a good addition, and they do don't get me wrong, Ethan Pinnock, love the story, but they do need to start getting in some defenders that can evolve that back line. Is he playing next to Collins? Are they playing a back three? I mean, I think this is a good addition, and I do want Fabio Carvalho to come good as well. So,
but spending 40 million, right? I guess at least with Van der Berg, he is featuring. Carvalho, they spent 20 million on at least as well. Just over.
I think they spent 25. I thought Fabio Carvalho was actually up close to 27, and I thought Van den Berg was like 25.
Okay, I think
they paid a lot of money for both, more than I would have paid for those guys.
I think the stats are normally without add-ons.
Sure.
That they document, the ones I'm reading out, but still, I was gonna say it is a lot of money for a squad that I feel does start to need a few more transfers.
Well, they've
in midfield, especially.
They've never been great at spending big money. No. I would say Brentford. They've like Damsgaard.
Yeah,
they've done a lot of those kind of 15 to 25 million transfers.
Hickey's never quite worked out, has he?
He's a kid
good.
still.
Hickey's good. He's just had a terrible time of injury. But it's as if they are
Sharda.
They are like sort of they've been a frugal club for all these years, and they just don't quite know how to spend the big bucks. But
give them 5 million, they're laughing.
Again,
sort it out.
I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Thomas Frank is the reason they're good, and he will get a tune out of them.
He is. And I wonder as well if sometimes you just spend the money because you're like, we need to appease Thomas Frank. Like Thomas Frank might be saying things like, if you don't buy some players, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Like, and I can walk into at least a probably upper Bundesliga side, certainly a mid-table Premier League side would jump at Thomas Frank.
Yeah.
Like, jump at him. There are so many teams in the league that I would just like immediately take Thomas Frank. I think he's fantastic.
There is a bit of me that starts to think that, like, when will a team jump on him? Like, if it hasn't happened yet, it's actually quite surprising. Because he's shown this now for numerous seasons that he is a capable manager.
I think he could go to Dortmund. I think he could do.
Yeah, but
Dortmund
had Dortmund had the position up this summer, and no one went for him. And like
Sahin.
Spurs, when they were looking at it, went for Ange, and obviously Chelsea never went for him.
Yeah, but if he's got a contract, you might have to pay compensation, and Bundesliga clubs aren't going to want to do that. Like that's partially a factor. Also, the other factor is that like an upper mid-table side, kind of like, or an ambitious Bundesliga side, they want a lot of possession. Brentford have kind of become not that lately because they've had to make the most of the talent they've got. Now, I think he can coach that football, but you can understand why a team would say, well, we don't know that you can, so we're not necessarily sure. And if we're going to have to pay 5-10 mil to get you out of Brentford, we're not going to do that. Like, when your contract runs down, if his contract runs down and he's like, I can just leave, I suspect teams will be interested. I think he's a really good coach. I just think it's like the right position needs to kind of...
Okay.
It also may well be that he does say, I'm happy in Brentford. My family's settled in Brentford. I like the club. I'm managing in the middle of the Premier League. I'm probably paid pretty well. Like, he might want a decent deal to leave. He's not going to leave.
Could be a Gasparini kind of thing at Atalanta, I think.
Yeah, like it needs to be a club that actually have the money to make it worth his while.
Yeah.
And there aren't that many of those around. There aren't many in Spain anymore. Because like clubs like Sevilla and Valencia just seem to have like absolutely no money and have horrible disasters behind the scenes. Most of the ambitious like Bundesliga clubs are relatively set. You know, like Dortmund are obviously taking a chance on Shaheen, but Leipzig have got Rosa. Obviously Leverkusen are sorted. Like, there aren't actually many teams anymore that would just like be obvious fits for him.
Yeah.
Whereas if like Emery suddenly left Villa, then I would be like, Thomas Frank, go and get Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank's absolutely your guy.
Okay, interesting. I mean, Argo Thiago, a lot of money spent on someone who basically looks like a penalty striker. But we'll see. We'll see come January. So that is Brentford done. Brighton. Few to get through here. Jorginho Ruta was actually the most expensive, and that happened, I think, basically on the final day in the end. 46 million euros. A lot of money for someone. Again, he's not necessarily the starter.
No. This
squad changes week in, week out.
And they were able to rest Pedro the other day and play Ruta, which is a real advantage of having him there. You know, like that is part of the reason. Like you can rest some of your other guys, and he can play. He was able to play with Welbeck.
Yeah.
You know, like you can play Ruta with pretty much any combination of your forward talent because he can play in the hole, play on the left, play up front. That's the use. That's why you pay more for Ruta, because he covers multiple positions, I think.
Okay, so you say Ruta will be a hit? I mean, but he does look good.
It's a huge amount of money, I think, for him.
Yeah, but I think he'll be a hit.
Okay.
And I think he's been fine so far. I think they all look good.
I'm less of a hit on Ruta.
Less of a hit on Ruta. Yankuba Minta, someone who...
Hits.
I think everyone, 30 million quid or something like that for him, without a doubt a hit. This guy is good. He has... Yeah, he's 19. Still,
19, yeah.
Soon to be 20. He is also, though, someone I think you have when the league first started, everyone was going, "Oh my god, this guy looks incredible," and he is. I do think in the last few games you have started to see he is like a teenager. Like
his decision making,
It is still there is still a lot of room to be improved, and elements where maybe you can see this as a guy who is come to the Premier League for the first time, and also he was playing obviously for a fantastic side before that, but there's a lot more pressure on him now to succeed, a lot more eyeballs on him, and that decision making, there are definitely elements there where will need to be improved, but that you see with a lot of youngsters all the time. Like, it's very rare a youngster comes through and has this incredible decision making. Mats Weifer, I mean, he's already out with injury as well, isn't he? But he did look really good when he was playing. Did look really, really good. Broken Gruda hasn't really played. Kadioglu's not really played. Matt O'Reilly
played 4 minutes, didn't he?
Against Crawley Town, and then
absolutely clumped.
And was out for a little while by the looks of it. So it's hard to talk about him, and a few of the others hard to talk about. But overall, I do feel like Brighton's transfers were just like and are going to be hits. They've been so smart of how they've gone about it. And okay, let's talk about the manager as well.
Good.
Hit.
Yeah, he's great. It's good.
Well, he looks like someone who I hate and I can't like place it. Every time I see him, I'm like, I hate this guy. But like, it's just because he looks exactly like someone. I don't know who it is. Is it someone from the past? Is it someone famous? But every time I look at him, I absolutely despise his face. I just hate it. But
I feel less.
But he's a good coach.
I feel less animosity towards his face, but I think he seems like a
Makes
good
me
guy.
angry.
I thought he's conducted himself well in interviews as well. Like there's always, especially considering when he first joined, there was all this like chat about his age and all this kind of stuff. And now I actually don't think. I think less people are talking about his age, and it's more.
Have they lost yet?
No, I think they're one of the few teams.
I think there are 4 teams. I think Forest, Brighton, Arsenal, and City.
Yeah, that sounds
are the only
right.
teams who haven't lost. But that game the other day as well, like when he got a red card, along with Nuno, he was totally in the right. Like it's a disgraceful challenge from Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yeah,
it's a disgraceful challenge. Like it's at least a second yellow, which in fact is what it was. It wasn't like a straight red that was given. But like that's a clear red card, and the fact there was any debate over it at all, I think is like utterly embarrassing. It's a scissor tackle at speed. You can't do that.
No,
it's super dangerous. And so even then, I was just like, I thought, I wonder if this is gonna come round. Where they're like, oh, he's 31, he can't control himself.
I don't think I saw too many. Yeah, I didn't see anything.
Yeah,
really
but
like
I
that.
worry that if some of this stuff maybe happens over the course of the season, that'll be a narrative that the media would like to paint. But he's doing a great job.
Really
and
good job.
They look really good. And like, we could talk about transfers, but there are also people like Hinshelwood and Van Hecke who look who also like are growing in stature. I think. So it's great.
And João Pedro, he's now out with a little bit of with a knock by the looks of it. But he's someone that looks like he's improved already under him.
How good as Welbs?
Danny Welbs doesn't stop, does he?
Always has been
doesn't
good.
stop.
He's the best. I love Danny Welbs.
But even Matoma, I think Matoma obviously he got that injury last year. He's come back and fit back straight back into it.
I wish Fulham had gone in for like Danny Welbeck. That'd have made me so happy. Just
crazy.
Anyway.
You just want Arsenal ex-players, basically, don't you?
They've all been good for them.
Yeah,
you can't knock them. Like Nelson. Okay, we'll come on to Fulham in a bit.
Yeah, let's keep going.
We'll
let's
get
keep going.
But I think just
That's enough
generally as
Brighton
well,
talk.
Yeah,
Brighton has to be a hit. Like they have been.
Zach, we're on
fantastic.
the letter B still.
Okay. Chelsea.
Crap. Garbage.
Okay.
Let's do this, and let's do this properly.
Just list.
Okay. Pedro Neto.
Miss.
He hasn't really played, but
Yeah, but the team looks better. When Noni Madueke plays, the team looks really good, and Madueke looks really good.
I would say that I don't think Neto. There's this big discussion about where Nkunku should start. I don't think Neto is in that discussion of he's like Sancho
Should be the right wing.
Sancho and Nkunku. Like even João Felix has shown some good moments. Who are your other wingers? I lose track.
Madrid.
No. But no, I mean I like the fact that you can play like 2 different styles of. You can have wingers that can go to the byline. You have guys that can cut inside as well. You've got like multiple options. But Neto's problem is Sancho followed him, and Sancho's just looked better than him. So,
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily, as we mentioned earlier. I think it's harsh saying.
But you're thinking it's a criticism of the player to say it's a miss, and it kind of is because he's not that great. But it's more. But is the transfer a miss? Yes, it is. Because the team is better with one of like 3 other players playing in front of him, and you spent one of the biggest fees of the summer on a guy you didn't need. You don't need him, Zach.
But
he's not necessary at all.
He's not at all. But like,
is he in your first choice 11? No.
Not right
Is he
now,
in your
no.
second choice
Not right
11?
now. Yes.
Not sure.
Yes, he is. Yes. He's the right wing. Like right now, Noni Madueke is on the right wing for sure. I think he's doing a fantastic job of it. However, we also have seen throughout Madueke's career at Chelsea, he goes through ups and downs. And maybe during that down period, we'll see Neto come in. And I don't think he's set the world alight, but I don't think he's been terrible either.
He's like
your. Who do we play?
Let me count up.
City?
1,
Chelsea.
2, 3, 4, 5. He's at best your 6th best forward, and probably lower than that.
Who did Chelsea play second or whatever? Right, doesn't matter.
Why do you hate Neto so much?
I don't hate him. He's just.
You
I don't.
do.
Why do I hate him? Like, he's not very good. He's not very good, and he's been injured constantly over the last few
I'm
years.
pitching for Man United, and you did not say anything.
And
about
Chelsea
him.
went and spent so much money on him. You went and spent money on him as if he'd been fully fit and as good last season as he looked when he was 22, 23. But the simple fact is, he has got worse over the last couple of years. Like, his output has got worse, and he's been injured a lot. That makes my estimation of you as a player go down. And if Chelsea go and then spend one of the biggest fees of the summer on him, knowing, or I don't know if they knew, but like potentially knowing that you were going to play Noni Madueke anyway, or knowing you had Madueke there, and you had Mudryk there, and you had Felix, and you were going to try and get Sancho, and you had Jackson, and you had Palmer, like all these guys in the squad. It's just like a colossal waste of money. I just think it's a fantastically stupid transfer, even if you love the player. And if you love the player, I think that maybe you need to consider what you actually would expect to get out of him if you signed him, which is a guy who is always injured and who has not looked the player he was when he first broke through.
Okay.
Those are knocks against him, but it's not about the player. I've got no problem with the player. I used to like the player. It's just that now I would never sign him.
A player can change though, man. Like injuries.
Yes, he has changed. He went from being good to
guys.
being crap and injured.
Nah, man. I think he's a player who can. He's a player who can.
I
Definitely
would
change.
say he is a miss on the basis that he's not necessarily.
He's not in the first.
relevant,
He's not in the first 11.
I'm willing,
I agree.
I'm willing to give him
in Chelsea's
a moment.
best.
You paid starter money for a guy who's not even second choice.
Okay, I can agree. He's definitely second choice, but I can agree to him not being the starter for sure.
Let's keep going.
João Felix, I think, again, someone who's probably on that same level then. Like, he's not the starter, is he? He's not going to get in over Cole Palmer, but he's
player,
in that second choice.
And also in more of a position of need. Like, so he can actually play in the hole, which I think is super useful, and he can sub in up front, which I think is also useful for you.
And when they're coming on, these subs are like, it must be quite frightening sometimes when you see these guys coming off of the bench. It's like, oh god, now we've got to deal with them after dealing with these others for the last 6 minutes.
Oh yeah, oh my god, João Felix.
Okay,
looks like he's 12 years old.
Dewsbury Hall, again,
A mega miss.
Huge
not-
miss.
he's
A
not
mega miss.
Disaster miss.
Can you believe that he's not getting minutes in that Chelsea squad whatsoever?
Sure, but again, I think right now, if we look back at all the transfers, he is a squad player, isn't he?
Yeah, but
that's the role
again,
he's facilitating.
I doubt he thought that.
I think he thought he was going there at like a low point for Chelsea, and he was going to just walk into that midfield and make things happen. And he can't. He's not. He genuinely, this could be like the next Drinkwater. I'm beginning to get that.
Yeah,
Let's calm. Jesus
No, that is what it is.
Christ,
What do you mean? He's not getting any minutes whatsoever.
No, the next Drinkwater was
What are
Mudryk.
we on about? Let's drink water.
not
That was
telling-
Mudryk, but this is...
I'm talking about just like his Chelsea time. I don't think he's going to get any minutes at all.
He's just a squad player. Like right now, he's coming off
Drinkwater
the
was a
bench.
squad player and he
He's
never played.
Drinkwater wasn't a player.
Yeah, well, neither's Dewsbury Hall at the moment. He's like just a man who turns up at the ground.
Maresca's already having to answer questions about him in press conferences. If Dewsbury Hall is there in 2 years, I will be stunned.
And you know,
Be a fine
Maresca,
squad player.
I wonder how angry he is with Maresca as well. You know, maybe the wages are so good he
He
doesn't
said he
get...
could have been at Leicester where things are going
come
so
on,
well.
Well,
Come
he'd
on,
be
all of
playing
it.
football in the Premier League instead of like being on the bench behind a
think
bunch of
He was
kids.
I
he
think
was
he'd be okay
Maresca's
with the
man
decision,
at Leicester.
man.
They
Yeah, they
probably
were
thought
like,
they had
he
some
knows the
special bond.
system.
Mate.
When they signed him, people weren't saying he's just a squad player. He'll be useful. Also, he has not yet been a squad player. Like he's been nothing whatsoever.
He plays
like-
Europe for us when we're there. He plays the cup games. Like
This is honestly, Zach. This is like when two people are best mates at primary school and they go to secondary school, and one of them is cooler than the other, and he's like, "Oh, I've actually got loads of new friends now. I'm sorry, I thought we were going to be best pals here, but we're not.
Yeah, that's exactly
You're
right.
gone.
Okay.
You are gone."
Enzo
Sure.
Maresca, arsehole.
sure, okay.
Snake.
Jorgensen's not played. Just literally played.
Yeah,
Miss.
what? Yeah, I mean,
That's a miss.
Did you need a 15th keeper?
Oh my god! Earlier we literally sat here and said these guys that haven't played, they can't be a miss. We
Well, you
literally
didn't
sat
need
here
There's a
Yeah,
and
difference
yeah.
between a player who's been injured and a guy that you signed who you didn't need to sign. A chance. You think that it's like a personal attack on a player when we say it's a miss. Sometimes
don't.
it is, but often it's not. Often
don't,
it's an
but
attack on the transfer itself, and you did not need to sign 7 or 8 goalkeepers.
But we're going
I would
through
say
other
that was
players.
too many.
You've
We're
bought
going
him.
for other players. Ian Matson earlier, we're going, he's not playing enough, but so
Yeah,
not
but you
really
can
a
see
miss,
he's
is
going to
it?
get minutes
Yeah, but he
over Luca
will
Dean.
play.
So Jorgensen could easily get minutes.
He was a position of need. Ian Matson was signed in a position
People
of
have moaned
need
about
where
Chelsea's
which he would
goalkeeper
get.
for the last 3
No,
years.
we haven't. I've never really had an issue with your
I thought
goalkeeping
Sanchez
situation.
was fine.
Sanchez fine.
That was not.
And you've also bought Mike
Penders,
Penders, who I'm assuming you've told in 2 years is going to be your starting goalkeeper.
There's a difference if you sign in a position where you can only play one person, and you knew it wasn't really a position of need, and you signed multiple people there. Those are misses. That is a stupid allocation of resources. You signed 4 keepers this summer. Was it 3 or 4? Was it 5? Was it 8? Who knows? You have 9 goalkeepers on the books, and I think about 4 of them stayed. I think only about 5 of them were you able to shift on loan to do the various nefarious methods.
But everyone's got 4 goalkeepers. Everyone has 4 goalkeepers.
Not everybody signed them for £20 million.
The only Chelsea's goalkeepers right now is an academy kid, Bettinelli, Jorgensen, and Rob Sanchez.
Where's Penders?
Penders was on
Jorgensen was a starting keeper last year.
Yes.
He was the best save rate in the whole of La Liga. Robert Sanchez, I'm assuming
then fight for your place.
You paid the full fee for him to come in this summer.
Rob Sanchez.
Whoever's in goal for you right now.
Yeah, Sanchez. Yeah.
You paid the money that had to be spent for him to get him in.
How much was it? It was 24 million euros.
Okay, Zach, that's a huge amount of money to spend on a reserve keeper.
At least starting money.
The whole thing is meant to be battling.
If Liverpool had bought in Mamardashvili and just kept him on the bench, that'd have been nuts. But no, they've sent him back to Valencia so he can play, keep him fit and keep him happy. You're going to just have a pissed off Jorgensen now.
Okay.
It is a miss to spend starter money on a player who is not starting.
Well, let's just make sure we keep that energy throughout the video, I think, is the way that we need to look at this.
Zach, you've got to face the fact that I know you don't like it, but the club you support is the thickest club in football.
Okay, well, they're doing all right at the moment. They're doing all right.
They are good.
I don't know. I wouldn't say good. Like, you were comfortably the worst side in basically every game you played.
But we have been better than the sides.
Zach,
you played West Ham this weekend, who have been so
sure.
Is Tosin getting minutes? I don't know.
Yeah, he played the other day.
Renato Vega,
hits,
I think,
big hits
very good.
For the money you pays, for the money
position of need.
Position you need, money you paid, big hits. Adebayo, free transfer, hits.
Yeah. James Sancho on loan.
I think he's a hit so far. He's looked really good.
I think he will be a hit. I think you should say he's a hit so far. It depends on the ultimate money, but it's fine.
I'm loving the United fans getting absolutely riled up about it all. But
I hate watchers.
Can I just say, Conor Gallagher at Atletico, huge hit. Well. They love him. Well. 2 goals.
Mark Guiu, 18-year-old, bought him from Barcelona.
He's a miss because he missed the easiest chance of all time. And he's 18 and therefore he must suffer.
Okay, yeah, brilliant. All right, that's Chelsea.
Yeah, he's a kid. It doesn't really count.
That's Chelsea's done. Let's move on before I have an aneurysm. Crystal Palace then. Let's go. Most expensive signing, Eddie Nketiah. Nearly 30 million euros. Started pretty well. I know obviously Palace themselves haven't. But I do feel like he's someone that is going to definitely... I don't think he's going to fill what the hole that Elise left, but he could definitely do his best and try and fill it in a different way. I think that's definitely what we're going to see from Nketiah. He's not going to be the new Elise. But he's doing all right. He's
super lively. He presses really hard. He's sneaky quick. He's a decent dribbler. More importantly, he doesn't need much space in the box to get a shot away. He will manage to get a shot away really quickly. He works super hard. I just think Palace fans will love him. Palace fans will really like him because Eddie Nketiah always is working for your team. And I think it's hard to dislike a player who feels like they're sweating blood to try and win a game. But he is also just he's actually a class footballer. He's really good.
We've got Lacroix.
He's been a bit shaky. But I'm willing to give him time. I still think the money they paid for him and his track record is enough to justify giving him moments to come up to speed.
It's a really hard job.
He doesn't look like the 20-year-old when he first came. When he came through at 20 under Glasner. There could be something quite special here, and it's not maybe quite.
No, he's just a guy. He's just okay.
He's produced one of the funniest red cards ever, which I encourage people to the most blatant foul. He's walked off before he even gets shown the red card. It's really good for Wolfsburg. Go have a look for it.
Chadi Riyad.
No idea.
Centre back. He's not really played too often. Ismail Assar is someone who I think actually right now goes down as a miss.
I didn't like that transfer.
I didn't mind it. Because they only paid 15 million euros for him.
I think that's quite a lot for a guy who...
He looked okay when he was in the Premier League.
No, people loved him in the Premier League. Yeah. He was linked with Liverpool and stuff, but he was never actually... I don't know. How old is he now?
He is now 26.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, that's fine. But I do think it has been a miss so far because they're they're changing shape rather than using him.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a miss. But
but then do you think they've changed it because obviously Nketiah came in last minute?
They're trying to shoehorn in Nketiah. They're trying to shoehorn in Nketiah, Mateta, and Eze into that starting lineup.
I think Sarr was their first signing of the season.
Sarr's, again, not a bad thing to bring in a player like Sarr and have him as an option.
Yeah.
But I just, even like Kamada, I don't quite understand where he fits. Like typically, I mean, he can sort of play
can do several roles though. Like I think we've even seen him. I think most recently he was doing like a job slightly in like DM
at Lazio. That was like the best season of his career, playing a more defensive role. And to me, the obvious place to go with this team is a diamond midfield with Doucouré at the base, Wharton and Kamada either side, Eze at the peak, and then ahead of them, Mateta and Nketiah. Like that to me is like the best. The best way of making the best way of making sense of this talent. Yeah, but Kamada, because can play a more attacking role, he can pull out. Yeah. He can pull out. I also think that what you can do is like that 1-2 can mean Eze going out to the left and Nketiah pulling out to the right. Like of course. Like there are trade-offs with everything, but right now Palace's problem is not that they don't have width. Palace's problem is that you can pass the ball through the midfield so easily. Yeah. It's actually a joke. So what they need to do is shore that up, and the way to do it might be this for the time being. And I think it's okay to basically say, right, Eze, you've got 2 strikers in the box. Find one of them. I think he can do that. Like he's really, really good.
He's pretty good. I didn't even realise they've signed Matt Turner on loan. Apparently, Matt Turner. You know, old Arsenal keeper. And Trevor Chalobah
one of the
is
less
also
good
there.
Ex-Arsenal.
Didn't want him at Fulham.
He didn't come through the academy, so that's why he's crap.
Trevor Chalobah hasn't played at all, really. Like I know he started the last game, but we've not seen enough of him. But I do think that's a transfer.
I think that is a fantastic signing.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I love Big Trev.
Going to be a hit, in my opinion. Everton, Jack O'Brien, not played.
I don't know why.
Which is a bit of a miss.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, because that is, like, I think we like the player and I think the transfer will be a hit. But the fact that you bought this defender and you're not playing him despite the fact your defence has looked appalling is a bit of a problem.
And fans are gunning for Keane, man. They're going for Michael Keane and saying, like, we've got this kid on the bench, like, get him on instead. And it's not worked out quite so far, has it, Henry?
Nope.
No, not at all. Ndayi, hit.
I mean, he's a good player.
Been good. Been one of the few stars so far for Everton, giving fans something to look forward to.
He can change a game, and not a game, but he's one of the few flair players in that Everton side that can make something happen. That's what makes him so dangerous.
Yeah, Lindstrom hasn't really played.
I'm worried about that though, just because I think I can understand why you don't throw in defenders at first. But if you're not really giving chances to an attacker, when you kind of, I don't know, I guess they haven't been that bad in scoring goals so far. But if you're not really giving chances to attacker, I start to think, like, does Dyche just like not like this guy?
I guess Dwight McNeil has become quite an attacking threat from going forward, which is where Lindstrom would maybe play, and Calvert-Lewin, you can't not play him at the moment.
Sure.
So I just wonder if he's just... He will have moments where he'll come in, but he came off a really low season last year, so we don't know like the ins and outs of it. He might just be a bit of a shot footballer at the moment, and it's not easy to come into an Everton side that haven't won a game so far. So he's just on a low rung. But yeah, I think the success of Dwight McNeil was probably dampening that transfer so far.
Mangala, obviously he was at Forest last year. Now at Everton, after he moved to Lyon, now he's at Everton on loan. I mean, he's played 2 games basically. At DM,
the dodgiest stuff I've ever seen in Lyon this season, where they paid like 25 million for him or something, and then immediately loaned him out to Everton. That is not my idea of above board business.
They also brought in Asmir Begovic.
Oh, baby.
He's back.
Can't believe he's still alive.
Sure. And Broja, not played. I mean, he's injured, actually. I think he comes back.
Is Broja on loan at Everton?
Yeah, well, he's injured. Obviously, he was originally meant to be going to Fulham. Ipswich. It was at Fulham. And then he got injured and they cancelled it, and then Everton took him for a less fee or whatever.
That's fine though. Like that's okay depth. I mean, he needs to prove he can ever be fit and get shots in the Premier League. 2 things he's never done. But sure,
we'll see.
It's fine.
We will see, won't we? Okay, then let's talk about him. Fulham Football Club.
You're on the energy, Zach. Here
Fulham
it comes.
Football Club.
We are kicking, baby.
We'll start with the most expensive
Fulham been
one.
really good, man.
We'll start with the most expensive one. Emil Smith Rowe, hit or miss?
I mean, maybe one of the biggest top 5 hits in the Premier League.
Ever.
Maybe.
Ever.
I don't. Everyone was like, oh, you're getting way too carried away at this at the start of the season. He has been sensational. He has been stunning. I love him. I love him so much.
Don't argue,
He's so good.
Don't argue.
He is. I know it's only expected points, but we're 4th on expected points. We should have beaten West Ham. I arguably think we should have drawn against Man United. These are such good signs right now. Iwobi's playing the best he's ever played. Adama Traore is looking so good at the moment. I can't quite believe what I'm seeing. Anthony Robinson is one of the top left backs in the whole league. I'm so happy with Joachim Andersen. He's been a hit. Because he was just always going to be, because he's basically just had to change shirt. That's all he's had to do.
Have we seen Sander Berge much?
Not really. It wasn't the position we actually needed. He's a forward that he can drive. The thing is, we're playing Lukic, who has stepped up this season, and then Andres Pereira deeper, both of whom are very good at passing the ball. Like, Pereira's chance creation is massive. So we don't really need a destructive guy driving forward because we have so much creativity in the forward line at the moment. So really, Pereira and Lukic, their role is to get the ball back and just try and get it straight into the creative players. As you were saying last week, Adama occupies multiple wingers. At the moment, Iwobi is doing the same. And then it creates space for Smith Rowe just to be the wizard. I think the money we've paid for him is unbelievable. This is one of the biggest hits that you're going to see. He's a hit.
He's right.
Reece Nelson is a mega hit as well. Like, do you remember, we used to bring on Harry Wilson off the bench. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind Harry Wilson.
He was good.
I said this on the Fulhamish podcast, which you can listen this week with me and Jack Collins. The problem is before, it would always be like, oh, well, we've got basically the same players, as in not much difference. We'll just put them on as subs and hope that they'll change something. We've now got people like Nelson that can come in and do different things. I'm so excited by Fulham at the moment. It's actually scary.
Mate, it's good to see it.
And Smith Rowe I think, is going to be the best. Mitrovic only cost like 25 million when we got him from Newcastle, and that was a great deal. If he keeps it up, and he needs to stay fit, and if he drops off, then if he's injured, then Fulham will probably look a lot worse. But Smith Rowe at the moment, I think, is on course to be one of the best signings in the history of Fulham. For the money we paid, for the price, for the age we got him, for the profile he brings, the Hale End boys doing the business. Our transfer business, everyone said it was good. It has been good, and I think we're on course for we could hit Conference League this year if all goes right.
Boy, oh boy.
Oh, choo-choo.
Here it comes.
Wow.
Do you need anything else?
No.
I'm trying to say, I think you've covered everyone. Another guy called George
Cuenca, he was like an £8 million lump at centre-half. We then went and got Anderson, so he doesn't even necessarily need to start. Is there anyone else? I can't remember.
I know you meant Ryan Sessegnon.
Oh, okay. The thing is, he doesn't actually need to play. He actually has looked all right. He's looked fine. But then we did lose to Preston when he was playing. Yeah, that losing to Preston is a big caveat to that big positive speech I just made. So we need, yes, Ryan Sessegnon is just a squad option, and I don't mind that because he just needs a bit of love.
The boy returned home. Mate, well done. You have ticked off every Fulham signing there.
Do you both agree that Smith Rowe is one of the best signings of the summer?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
He's been fantastic.
Especially value for money wise. Jesus.
My issue with Smith, I don't have an issue with Smith Rowe, but the only issue with Smith Rowe is the kind of like Maddison factor, right? Which is like, he's great that he's injured. So that'll be really what determines like how big a hit this is at the end of the season. But like, he has looked fantastic. And the last 2 games of Fulham, I think they had like 3.2 XG against Newcastle. They had like 2.9 against West Ham. And they only hit those heights 3 times last season. Yeah. And they've done it in back-to-back games. And actually the defense has looked a lot better too. Now, I think that, I think Palace were kind of okay with selling Joachim Andersen for that money at his age. Like, clearly they were kind of fine with it because he could have just said no. But the defense overall has actually been really, really successful. Like, they're not allowing teams into their penalty area much at all. I've been really impressed by them. Yeah, I think it's great.
Thank you.
Well done, Henry.
I love Fulham.
Okay.
The Arsenal boys.
The boys Arsenal B team.
Arsenal, white Arsenal.
Who else can send Ethan Nwari on there?
Mate, I'd take him in a...
No.
On loan.
We need him. We got like no midfielders.
Okay, Ipswich Town.
Don't care.
Amari Hutchinson was their most expensive signing. 23.5 million euros. I mean, he is a good player. Like, it works for them.
All of these are signings for if they get relegated.
Yeah.
It really, I mean that positively. I think I think Ipswich have looked okay. I think they've not been sort of shat on by anyone. They've looked fine, but they signed a lot of players, and I think trying to get them all up to speed in a new team in the Premier League isn't easy. So Hutchinson, at least there's a bit of continuity. At least they're spending money on a player that knows the club. And then if they go down, then they've got some great players there. So I'm not too stressed by this.
Jacob Greaves actually thinks been pretty good at the back for them.
Again, that's a really good move. These were signings that were made, like Henry says, because they would definitely be good in the Championship. And if they're good in the Premier League, then great. He's like a perfectly good signing. But it's hard to call these a hit because I think Ipswich have been crap.
I like Djellab,
but I don't really blame them for that.
I like
so what can you do?
But I had Djellab down as one of my probably the worst signings of the window.
I think Djellab's been a hit.
I still kind of agree to that, but I think he's been good. But I still don't think he's going to be the guy to keep you up. Like that's essentially what you're looking for with the striker signing. Sorry, the aircon's just come on and I'm a little bit cold. Jack Clark. Has Jack Clark even played that much so far for Ipswich?
I don't know, but that's a real get for a team that do expect to get relegated.
Obviously, he was the best winger in the Championship.
Yeah, to have him going back next season in the Championship, you're like, okay, we go back down with parachute payments, and we've got one of the better centre backs in the league. We've got a guy who is fantastic for us. Maybe you can close a deal for Djellab, because he has been there on loan. And then you've got the guy who was like the best winger in the Championship. I'd look at that and think we're really well situated.
I actually think this guy's been good since. I actually think this guy's been good since he joined Sammy Schmodix. I think he's probably one of the signings so far who's got some goals. Yeah, but that's what they need as well. Yeah. And he did that last season, obviously for Blackburn when they were kind of struggling lower down on the table. Muric,
so fine.
Well, he didn't start the first few games, did he?
Yeah, in there against City as well.
Yeah, but do we really think that changed the course of that match?
Very true.
I just don't care.
Very, very true.
All keepers make errors.
Yeah.
But Kepa's not allowed to get away with them, is he?
I guess the other ones,
he needs
just
to
looking
do
here.
First.
Calvin Phillips on loan has
played.
You know what? I've not even noticed him, which probably says more about Calvin Phillips than anything else. So probably might
the thing is, this move for Calvin Phillips has to be one where he walks away and everyone goes, "Oh, we saw the old Calvin Phillips." And right now, as you say, he's not making any headlines whatsoever. So.
I think that's a good way to put it. Sorry, Ipswich fans, if you were looking for something a little bit more positive there, not happening. Okay, oh God. And if you want some positivity, Leicester City fans,
I'll give you one. Buonanotte has been good. The loanee they got in from where did they sign? Is it from Chelsea? No.
No, Chelsea's one's not played. Odson Edouard.
Oh, from Brighton. Buonanotte from Brighton.
Yeah.
He has been really good, and his numbers have been excellent as well. I think he's on 3 or 4 goal involvements already for Leicester this season.
Bobby Declan over Reed.
Bear in mind, he's really young, Buonanotte. He looked positive coming through at Brighton. I actually think this could be a springboard for his career. So that has been a very positive addition. Mavididi, did they sign him permanently, or they brought him up from the Championship? I think he's looked good. I like Mavididi. Yeah. I think he's looked quite fun.
Ex-Arsenal.
Yeah. Fatawu as well. I think
Deco-Doveri's
been fine. For a free transfer. It's actually been pretty good. But Ollie Skipp, the most expensive signing to replace, I guess, Shrewsbury Hall essentially in that midfield. Not really. Has he played too often? I think that's one thing we should quickly.
The thing is, the only opinion I have on stuff like that is the opinion I had before, which is don't do that for that money. But that's kind of based on the idea of it, as opposed to I've watched him and I think he's been crap.
Yeah,
it was just a bad signing. They just shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, no one here is really blown.
Do you think it's a bad signing? I think Skipp's a good player.
I don't think he's a good player, and I think they paid
for your most expensive signing that window.
Not for that much money. No, I think he's a £15 million.
Akoli as well at the back. Actually,
what's the name of the attacking mid they signed? The young creative mid.
El Khanousi.
Yeah,
El Khanous.
Bilal, is it Bilal?
Yes, Bilal El Khanous.
Yeah, he's interesting, but again, he's interesting for the future rather than he's tearing up the league now.
Yeah, Jordan Ayew. I think Leicester fans do this as well.
He scored a good goal. He scored a good goal for them.
I would not sign Jordan Ayew.
Yeah, we've not seen anything of Michael.
Well, you said that was an awful transfer at the time, and it is.
Yeah, I didn't actually realise Odson Edouard went on loan to Leicester. But yeah, I think I think very much kind of things have gone to our expectations so far for Leicester City. But you never know; things may change. I've seen there's already been a little bit of turn in the fan base towards Cooper as well.
I mean, they're not losing every game. They are like eking out draws. They drew against Tottenham. They should have beaten Spurs. They threw away a lead against Palace. I don't think Leicester have actually been terrible.
Yep. Okay, well, let's move on to Liverpool. And really the only signing we can talk about is Chiesa.
I'm adamant that's going to be a hit. I think it's a sensational deal.
I think for 10 million quid, wasn't it?
It's mental.
And even when he's just coming off the bench, is like a great person to have.
Got an assist. Exactly.
Yeah, got an assist against West Ham.
It almost doesn't matter that he's not playing at the moment.
Yeah.
This is so good, and it's fine that he's stuck behind people like Salah at the moment. I think this could be a second season syndrome thingy with Chiesa. He just needs to stay fit and just embed himself in the team. He's going to be brilliant. Yeah,
can't really talk about Big Georgie because obviously he's not playing for Liverpool on loan at Valencia. But that is Liverpool once done. I mean, we've spoken about him before. Ryan Gravenberch is just doing ridiculous things. He's basically feels like a new signing for them, arguably as well at the back. But things going pretty well for Liverpool. Sorry, it couldn't be longer, but not too many players to talk about. Man City. 2 players here to mention. Savinho looked pretty goddamn good, didn't he? Maybe one of the biggest hits in this video, to be fair.
Not a Smith Rowe, but he has been a hit. Yeah,
he's been really good.
What's his goal involvements?
I think he's got 2. He's only got 2. I don't think anybody has more than 2 except for Haaland in that squad. But when you look at his underlying numbers, I think it goes Haaland, De Bruyne, Savio. So that's good, and a really good ball carrier. Like, he's just doing everything you want to do. He got the assist for them against Arsenal on that first goal. Like, he's a real handful. He helps stretch the team. Passing wise, he looks completely at home in Man City side, which is a very high compliment. Pep obviously trusts him already, which is kind of shocking. He's looked certainly more impactful than Foden, who has been crap,
benched, basically.
Rubbish, and I think Savio has been a great signing. It's almost like on the open market, he would have been worth more than Manchester City paid for him.
Yeah, it is intriguing how much
that's weird, isn't it?
Well, according to 25 million
probably merits
euros,
investigation.
25 million euros.
According to this, yes.
I think it is more than that.
I think it was 30, but he's clearly like a 45 to 50 million pound player based on his performance in La Liga last season. They didn't pull him out of the Czech Republic. He was playing in Spain. And they paid pennies for him.
I mean, the fact that he's
and I don't know, that's a bit weird to me. I just know it's strange.
Yeah.
I wonder how they did it. Amazing negotiation, I guess. That must be it.
I mean, that was 116th charge. There we go. I mean, for a winger to join, and classically, we've said for years about these wingers who they join Man City. It takes a year for them to get used to it, understand it, and this guy's just understood it from day one. It's been really, really impressive, actually. Maybe one of the, so far, the best signings of the window. Ilkay Gundogan as well, free transfer.
It's just a hit.
And especially now Rodri's out for a long time, we're going to see even more of him. Maybe not necessarily doing exactly that role, but he'll at least be on the pitch in midfield.
Yeah.
The guy was a good signing, always going to be. Always going to be, was fantastic.
Honestly, the other day against Inter, I was watching Gundogan. I'd almost forgotten that he wasn't at City for a year. It felt right.
I think most people will. I think
right.
most people will. I wonder how he looks at it though now, because obviously Barca look pretty goddamn good. They've got a great manager there as well. I wonder how.
You see their squad they played yesterday? It was about 9 La Masia players and then Lewandowski up front. It is so fun.
Scored a lot of goals. Okay, Manchester United then. A few to talk about here. Lenny Yoro
hasn't played. Fine. Doesn't matter.
Disaster. No. So he's been injured.
Doesn't matter. It's totally fine.
Is it a position of need?
Yes. They definitely needed to sign a player for that position, and he's going to be there forever, so it just doesn't matter that much. It wouldn't have been that surprising if he hadn't played that much in the first half of the season anyway.
Yeah.
Because he's a teenager, and it's an enormous amount of pressure for him to face. De Ligt, I think, has been a hit.
Yeah, definitely.
I think United, I don't think they look good at all. I still think they look...
Mazwari hit.
Yes. I still think United look pretty crap, but they're conceding under 10 shots a game at the moment, which, given that last season they were conceding more shots than anyone in Europe, is a huge improvement. So you got to give them credit for that. Xerxes has been a hit. Xerxes been good.
Ugarte not really played,
Hasn't
but he
really
has
played.
put out an apology already for his first game.
Missed then. Done.
Against Twente.
Should probably be sold.
Yeah, it's funny this because we're saying a lot of these players are hits, and United still look bad.
Yeah.
But they don't look as bad. Like I just think that, like, you know, there's a limit to. I think they'll look better over the course of the season. But there probably is like a limit to how high they can go. Unless if Ten Hag turns this around, it'll be the most insane. It'll be even crazier than the Arteta turnaround. Because like there have literally been, at least with Arteta, you could see what he wanted to do, even though it was boring and ineffective.
Yeah.
With Ten Hag, I'm just like, what do you want to do here? And also the club is so weak. I think about so often they're just like, guess we'll get this guy from Ajax, this guy who played for him at Ajax, like maybe how about another guy from Ajax, like that might solve it, which I just find like a bit pathetic. But
Only Southgate's waiting. He's waiting for the moment.
I mean,
it'd be amazing because like only United could downgrade on Erik Ten Hag.
who knows? Yeah, I mean, South.
I genuinely cannot believe we let Mikey put Ten Hag in the A category when we did our thing.
He didn't.
Did he not?
He did not.
You
go
talked
there.
about
He
this
went
last
minimum
time.
B. He went
You talked about this last time.
He went minimum
upset.
B, and I was not happy about it anyway. Ugarte, though, by the way, against Twente,
Huge miss.
looked so slow. Looked so slow. I mean, he was
Slow.
slow. He's always been sluggish. Sorry. Looked at previously when he was at PSG. I think that could be a little thing that starts to pop up every now and again. We'll see. But I do think
You know, McSauce, they love him in Napoli.
Of course they do.
They
course
might
they
win
do.
the Serie A this season. They genuinely might win Serie A this season.
And then they'll like immediately collapse into financial ruin.
Conte will have a breakdown. McSauce has slotted in at Napoli.
Is Gilmour playing?
He's not playing. He's behind Lobotka and Anguissa, which is fine.
Yeah.
But McTominay, they've changed their formation to get him in, and some of his performances against Juventus, he was next level.
Look up the highlights of his game against Juventus, and they are hilarious. Like it's like they're letting him play like he's like prime Kaká.
Yes, true.
They're like, you have total freedom to do. Like it's weird because like not many players get freedom in a Conte system, but for some reason he's decided McTominay is going to be one of them. So like everybody else is like rigidly holding position and doing the possession patterns that he teaches, and then McTominay is like receiving the ball in a half turn, nutmegging someone, running 40 yards, like just doing whatever he wants. It's absolutely bananas. Like honestly,
Scott McTominay, jeez Louise.
it's going to be a Victor Moses situation. They win the league, and then like
he's Victor Moses.
He spends the rest of his career like doing tours and shaking hands and being like, "Yeah, I did win the league. I made the team. I made the team of the season."
The idea of going to Naples on holiday and just a big mural of Scott McTominay greets you at the airport.
That's horrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, come on, let's go.
Okay, well, Scott McTominay hit. There you have it. Manchester United, though, a lot of hits in their signings, so I'm sure you're happy with that.
Yeah, it was a pretty good summer for United.
Newcastle United, not much to talk about, really. I mean, Lewis Hall officially joined, but technically was there last season. They've got the goalkeeper from Forest, Vlachodimos.
No,
Vlachodimos.
Yeah,
Vlachodimos. Yes, there we go. Hasn't played.
Well, also that was a
PSR
move.
Yep. William Uslar, not really seen much of him. Lloyd Kelly, we have seen a little bit of.
Sure.
Free transfer.
I think that's a hit. I think that's just like a Premier League.
It is tough for a free transfer not to be a hit, really, unless they're on crazy wages.
The Hood.
or the Hood, which Henry did get spot on. Big John Ruddy. Is that the John? Yes, that is the John Ruddy.
Wow. The one we know and love.
Yep, indeed. But there you have it. Yeah, I mean, I think Lloyd Kelly's definitely the hit there, but there's not too much else to talk about for Newcastle on that side of things, unfortunately. Nottingham Forest now.
Here we go.
Because they are doing some great things so far in the league. Elliot Anderson, I know it was a lot of money.
Well,
I love that player.
I'm willing to eat some humble pie on this one.
Go ahead, Henry.
He's looked brilliant. He's looked great. And I think credit to Forest, unbeaten. Do you know how impressive that is to be unbeaten 5 games?
Having gone to Anfield.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
Having gone to Anfield and Brighton, right?
Yeah. That is very, very good. Like I said, I thought Anderson was a lot of money. Again, it makes me wonder why Newcastle would want to sell him. But
Yeah, weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't think of any reasons.
It's just they had like 2 progressive young players and they sold both of them this summer.
They sold them in positions of enormous need as well. They were like, oh God, what are we going to do? Right winger. Right, well, we've got this amazing young right winger, but I guess we'll sell him. Their summer was a disaster from the point of view of sales.
But who else would they have sold, really? Like, they're not going to sell Isaac.
They could have really pushed to sell Bruno. They could have basically tried to sell Bruno.
They wanted to sell Bruno.
No, I don't think so. But I mean, like, they could have tried. You were going to have to give up somebody you didn't want to give up.
Yeah.
And it might have made more sense to give up somebody, like a 26-year-old midfielder. Like, I wouldn't want to sell Bruno either. But I'm just saying that, like, it wasn't like their only option was to get rid of Minte. When all year they'd been saying, well, we need a right winger, and they actually had one. They had one, and then I don't know.
I just think, I guess, you look at those levels of like the other guys that are still there, and they're just not gonna like even Joe Linton. I don't think they'd want to sell him either.
Back on,
but that's how it works.
No, I agree. I think they'd rather sell this guy who could be amazing rather than someone they know works for them.
Anderson has been a hit. I'll tell you who else has been a hit is that Jota, Portuguese fella that they brought in. The Portuguese Grealish.
7 million euros. 7 million euros. Jota Silva.
From Vitoria, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Guimarães.
One of my favourite clubs. He's looked class. He's looked really fun.
Milenkovic too.
Milenkovic has been
good
brilliant.
Signing.
Murillo is genuinely a really good centre-half as well. I don't know if he's...
They brought him in last year.
So him and Milenkovic is such... I was saying it's interesting because Fulham play New Forest this weekend, and there are
someone's got to lose.
There's quite a lot of parallels between the way that our squad's set up and that we've both got pretty solid back fours because Ola Aina's playing great football at the moment.
Yeah.
Excellent centre halves, strong back fours, and then the midfield is maybe a bit light in terms of pure destruction in the centre midfield. But then we've both got just a selection of quite fun attacking.
Mill Smith Rowe.
Well, Gibbs White's missing, which might be the difference.
But
Alanga, Jota, and Hudson-Odoi. It's quite an interesting match, and then they've got an old lump up front as well, like we do. So,
Chris Wood.
So I'm fascinated to see how these two teams that don't really want the ball and want to hit each other in the break are going to go against each other. But yeah, most of these signings, fair play to Forest because boy, do they go through signings. They really cycle through players. I mean, it looks as if they've genuinely nailed a lot of the big high profile positions this year. Like Milenkovic is on a lot of money, but sure, if he plays well, he's playing well. Like, is there anyone else who possibly missed?
James Ward-Prowse.
I mean, fine. I think that's a
loan transfer as well.
That's a really good loan.
Fine.
He's going to get minutes, and again,
good asset to have on loan.
Yeah,
I think Alex Moreno was always never a bad left back at Villa. Just at times couldn't get in over Digne.
They loved him when he first arrived.
Yeah. Didn't he get injured as well? He got injured for a long period as well.
Sure.
But he's a good transfer to bring in on that left side. I mean, Olaina can cover both, but they do need. And they got Nico Williams as well for the other wing. So I think that's fine. So a couple of hits there for Forest. Definitely a window that ended up being pretty decent, has to be said. We look on to Southampton.
Didn't like it.
There's a few nuggets.
Taylor Harwood-Bellis, I think, is a good player. It was great last year for them, and I would say actually getting him on the permanent is a hit.
Yes, I agree, and I think I really like Sugawara. I think he's been pretty good. Like, he's good passer, reasonably creative. Like, their passing has not been their problem this season. Yeah. Those are fine.
Ramsdale, they spent 20 mil.
It's okay. It's fine.
He's never going to be a miss. Like, in terms of the keepers that Southampton are going to be getting for that level, is he a miss? And I've always been someone that's criticised him.
I feel like Ramsdale could do sort of a Pickford hot streak at some point and just pull out some great performances.
And he's having to face a lot of shots at the moment.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, Sugawara's great. I think Archer, I like that signing in principle, but
Flynn Downs, I know he's on loan last year, but they've brought him in permanently this year.
He's a championship player.
Yeah, he's not really stepped up, I don't think, so far this campaign. Cameron Archer, I mean, you have to say so far, it's been a miss.
They spent a lot of money,
they
Southampton.
They did.
I'm just worried. I'm really worried about them.
Ben Brereton Diaz.
No.
Mateus Fernandez.
I actually don't think
I've seen him.
I couldn't tell you.
Saguara. So I would give it to I would give it to Saguara. I would give it to Harwood-Bellis, and I actually would give it to Ramsdale. Again, I don't think he's going to set the world alight. But I think in terms of the quality of keeper they will be getting, like Ramsdale's a Premier League keeper.
I don't think, exactly. I don't think you have to worry about Ramsdale. You don't have to spend the whole season thinking, like, Jesus, do we have to replace this guy? Like, he is a Premier League quality goalkeeper. Does that mean that he's, like, impervious to, like the odd bad shot, like squirming in? Obviously not. He's always had that in his locker. But, like, also all those guys will keep their value. Like if next summer they got relegated and they were like, actually, we could really do with selling Ramsdale and like getting some cash, they probably could for not that big a loss. Same goes for Harwood Bellis. They could probably sell him at a profit at some stage. So it's totally fine.
Maxwell Cornet they brought on loan.
No, bad. Don't like.
That was the most deadline day nonsense.
Took Chelsea's Leslie Chukwu on loan.
I think that's good.
Pretty good.
That's good. That's good.
He's been a hit. The only other one here that's maybe worth mentioning is Tyler Diblin came up from the academy.
He is so good.
He is good.
He's so
United
good.
Look at him at the moment.
He was like his goal the other day, and then he followed it up with like an amazing pass, like to create a chance. Was it for Archer? Like a pass between the lines.
Yeah, crazy ball.
And his dribbling so far this season, he looks enormous. I don't know why he looks so big. He's like lanky.
I think he looks. Like, how we talk about a lot of 18-year-olds, right? Or 19, 20, like these guys who are young and they don't look that way. They don't look, he looks like an 18-year-old teenager.
Sure.
Apparently Man United are trying to pounce on his contract situation. There's Man United move ever. So
they'll just ruin him.
But that is someone definitely for Southampton to keep.
He's sick.
To be positive about. Definitely, he's definitely one of their star players. I mean, he isn't necessarily a new signing, but he's come up from the academy. Looks very, very good. Okay, Tottenham Hotspur. Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Jesus. Dominic Solanke.
I actually
it's fine.
Think it's not a
miss.
It's not a stamped hit, but it will get there. He's now got a goal. He should have scored against Leicester. I still think he's what they need. You have to keep backing him because they need their centre forward to be a success.
How many goals?
No one's going to replace him in that squad, Zach. They're not going to just go, oh, you know what, we're going to play Richarlison up front instead.
Yeah, no, but
it's not
happening.
Think
he's good enough.
You don't think he's good enough?
I think he's totally fine.
I
think he'll be good for them.
I think he's going to be really good for them.
For a hit, right? How many goals has he got to be?
I think
over the course of a season,
15
in the Prem.
I wouldn't just go for goals. I'd go for like his goal involvements.
Okay.
But like
for a hit, for a nearly £65 million striker.
And how old is he? 27.
Bournemouth didn't have to sell him. That's the money.
Yeah, he's turning 27.
I probably want like 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if he reaches that.
But Zach, Spurs go in spouts where they will score loads and loads.
Yeah.
We've seen like the way they've battered certain teams and stuff. Like there will be games where he gets braces.
Sure, they've also scored a few goals already, and he was involved in one.
Sure, but like
he just moved there.
It's also partially about them knowing his runs, and because he isn't an outside the box kind of player, like it's about him working out where his teammates are. Like, it's going to take a while for them to do that, but Spurs, for all their failings, which are principally defensive, they get the ball into the final third a lot. They get the ball into the box a lot. They do have lots of useful players there. I do think that in the long run, I think Porro, Udogi, Son, even Johnson, certainly Kulusevski and Maddison, all these guys will be able to find Solanke. Solanke will score goals. I just think, is it a hit or a miss so far? Well, I mean, like I guess you could say like it might lean miss so far, but like that's not how we really judge transfers. Like I think Spurs are better than all the kind of like palaver around them would suggest, and I think he'll have a really good season.
Okay, Archie Gray obviously spent a lot of money on Archie Gray to get him around 40 million quid. I know he's not played a lot, but it's a lot of money though.
Yeah, but he's a kid. Like they bought him for his potential. They didn't buy him for his output now. That's fine. But I mean, like, again, it's the same thing, isn't it? Where you're like, is he a miss because he's not playing? And because, and to be fair, it's not like they couldn't use some reinforcements. Like that's the thing about Bergvall and Archie Gray. I think those are good transfers.
Yeah.
And I think they will be hits. But obviously, right now you're like, well, Bergvall being good now is something Spurs could actually use. So if he's not playing, that is a bit of a knock against the transfer. However, those transfers are going to be judged on the next 5 years and probably longer.
Yeah.
In fact, in 5 years, Archie Gray will still be a young player.
Bentancur is going to have this 6 game.
Exactly.
Bentancur is going to have this 6 game suspension at some point,
And
then
also-
one of them will get minutes.
Yeah, Romero will be
And to be
banned
fair,
100 times.
they have started like he's been bringing them off the bench along with Mikey Moore as well, who is definitely someone worth keeping an eye on.
Ogabert's been fine.
I was going to say, wasn't
as well.
Odobert?
I like
I actually
that.
think that's
I like
probably a
that.
hit.
That's okay.
So far, I think
Yeah.
he's been pretty good. Lucas Bergvall, we've gone through. Not too many others to mention.
I actually liked all Spurs' signings this summer.
Yeah, I
thought
think we were
all-
pretty complimentary.
They
about
weren't
them.
necessarily like what I do, and I don't think that the thinking was necessarily joined up, because I would maybe not like try and extend Son, for example. But like, I think they were kind of hoping they'd be able to sell Richarlison to Saudi, and then he said no. I think honestly, they thought Solanke Richarlison would be 1 in 1 out for about the same money. So maybe they're a bit disappointed, and maybe if they'd done that, they would have done something else in the midfield or something. Maybe that's when they would have gone and done Eze. That might have been what they were thinking. So possibly they got shafted a little bit on that. But I like the players. I like all the players they signed.
Yeah, I think you made a good point. It might have been you and Henry both made a good point about basically
Cheers,
their transfers around.
Henry just says stuff and I just copy it.
Was it around the long term? Was it about winning now? But yes. Okay, let's move on to West Ham, because this is actually quite interesting.
It ends with Wolves.
Yeah, 2 more. This one and then Wolves. West Ham. We were actually very complimentary, I think, about their signings.
But they stink.
The manager
They're so
is not working
bad.
at the moment. Max Kilman, 40 million.
Too much money.
I think he's actually looks all right.
He's actually probably one of their better players.
Problem
But
is,
West
like,
Ham have been.
player to player, I like all their signings.
West Ham honestly might have been the worst team in the league so far.
They've been really bad.
They have been.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I think, has been good.
appalling. How can all their defenders have been good and yet they've been shockingly
I said this
terrible?
about United.
Trash.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka, the Brazilian kid's not really played. Fulkrug actually hasn't really played.
Have been injured. But that is a miss, because the whole point with Fulkrug is it's a
Yes.
short term.
Yeah.
He's
I do
31.
agree.
You have to get something
do
out of him
agree.
now. Like, if your 22-year-old is injured for like half
Yeah.
the season, I mean, Fulkrug's going to be back now. But like, if your 22-year-old gets injured for half the season, doesn't matter. But if your 31-year-old is injured for the full season, then you're like, oh no.
It does seem like someone has just cursed West Ham with strikers. It's like they are good strikers, but when they're at you, they are not.
No, but like West Ham right now, Lopetegui is doing a horrible job. They do not know what they're doing. Their press against Chelsea was so funny. Like, when a team like Chelsea just cuts you apart at will and absolutely demolishes you and looks like leagues above you, like,
'Cause they are.
newsflash, you're not very good. Like,
No, it was a very weird decision where they were the idea for the two. I think they basically said, well, who's the DM on that day? Alvarez, and was like, okay, you're marking Jackson. And then just let Jackson run. And the defenders, when Jackson ran down that left wing for the first goal, were like, we're not going to go near you.
And it wasn't like,
crazy.
but like, look, if Cole Palmer beats his marker and threads a perfect ball through your defence for Jackson to run onto and he scores, sometimes you do just have to hold your hands up and say shit happens. But when Moises Caicedo just sees that he's got like about 80 yards of the pitch to play an easy pass into and manages to execute it, and it results in, you know, like a 0.6 XG chance for Jackson, like, maybe your defence isn't playing very well.
It is funny. Like, they have Kudus, who's
Poor against West Ham.
amazing. They have
so much talent. So much Somerville.
Yeah, they have so many good players, and yet this whole big thing about getting in Lopetegui for Moyes was meant to be the big moment that everything changed, and they've been piss poor. I reckon Graham Potter will be there in the next 6 months.
Sick.
I mean, that actually was pretty good.
I'll be there.
But he was almost.
I don't want West Ham to be crap.
But we also said
I like
before
West
as
Ham.
well. We said before that like Lopetegui is almost a Spanish Moyes. Like, so
I still think it was a good signing. I thought it was a good hire at the time, and I'm willing.
Ian Balaguer agrees with you.
Yeah,
Most unbiased man in football.
yeah, Malaga.
Somerville hasn't actually played that much, so not really someone we can talk about too often. Did play against Liverpool though, not so good. Though we were playing Liverpool. Okay, Wolves. Andre.
Has he kicked the ball?
I don't think we've seen too much of him. Rodrigo Gomez. I haven't seen too much of him. Sam Johnson. Still playing, what's his face, in goal?
No, Sam Johnson played last weekend for Wolves.
Okay.
Sam
so his first one, but originally they weren't starting the thingy for a while.
Johnson's starting for Wolves. I like Jose Sarr. I thought he was a good keeper. I didn't really know there was a major problem with him. But,
Jose Sarr had that one good year where he was like leading the league for XG saved.
Yeah, his first season.
And then since then has been.
They signed him from like Olympiacos. I don't know what I expected.
Andre has played 3 games so far for Wolves. Again, haven't they? And Wolves have been quite funny because like Wolves have looked good at times, but they are
not good.
Had some bad results.
I refuse to believe they're good. I swear they have made some good additions though.
Yes, Jorgen Strand Larsen looks really good. He's on loan from Celta Vigo.
Yeah, that's a hit.
He's definitely a hit. Tommy Doyle, not seen too much of. Pedro Lima, the right back. I think he played against Chelsea when they lost 6-0.
Being totally honest, Zach, I'm not going to watch Wolves unless they're playing Arsenal. I've got no reason to watch Wolves this season. Like, watching Wolves, even when they were good, was a punishing experience. And now they are not good. They are bad. So I just don't really want to watch them. Like, I'm sure one of these kids will be good, or they'll sell them back to a Portuguese club and then they'll become good, like it happened with Vitinha. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'll pay attention to Wolves when they play Arsenal, and probably on the last day of the season when they will be relegated.
Pedro Lima didn't play against Chelsea.
Like, there are loads of teams that could get relegated.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the transfer window, they were never going to have a great transfer window, were they? And in the end, they did actually spend up a few million quid on
They
it.
always do.
What do you mean, Zach? They were never going to have a good transfer window?
No, they don't have money to spend. They don't have.
That's
money
like saying, well, they are going to spend money, but it's not going to be good. They still went out and bought players who are not necessarily making a difference to their squad because they're not winning games. Yeah. So therefore, it's not a good transfer window because they just aren't very good at signing players. It's not that they were never going to have a good transfer window.
But they can't say that. To spend. They've not had money to spend for years. And when
whose fault's
that? It's their fault.
They got into the Premier League like through spending money that they shouldn't have had. They now have had years of Premier League money. Where's all this money going?
They've got the links with all those like agents, whatever. If you don't have lots of money to spend, then spend it wisely. Really do good scouting. And if these players aren't coming in and making a difference at all, then what's the point?
I appreciate that, Henry. I appreciate that.
Anger.
There we have it then. Wolves fans, Henry, not happy with how you've done your business. But we will see how things go on. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We won't do a video on Monday just because this was a long one to get through. Henry Hill, where can lovely people at home find you?
Well, yeah, listen, check out the Fulhamish podcast if you're a Fulham fan. But actually, I've got a long-form interview of Jeremy Corbyn coming out this week talking about football. If you like politics and you like Corbyn, which there's a chance you don't, then... But it was really fun, really interesting. It was, quite good for my career, I guess. So please go check that out on Football Joe.
Nice. Link down below. Patrice Van Straten.
My podcast, Unseen Incidents, with Pete and Patrick. You can find that on your favourite podcast app or at patreon.com/PatrickVS. You can also check me out on the Transfer Flow podcast that's available on YouTube and on your favourite podcast app. There's also a newsletter, but I don't write the newsletter. So less important than you going to YouTube and saying Patrick is incredible. Everyone should pay him more money, I guess.
Well,
comment that on this video as well, actually. That would be really useful.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy, like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.